Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and in today's video, we need to talk about a farther crash on our favorite cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, because guys, I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, I personally believe that this is not the end of this correction on Bitcoin. We have fallen below some very critical levels of support here in the last couple of days, and guys, it is not really instilling a lot of bullish confidence in me, especially considering what's going on in the stock market and with the news. Guys, like I said a couple of videos ago, as much as we would like to believe that Bitcoin exists in a vacuum and the outside markets might not have much of an impact on them, they do. And the fact is, the stock market is having a major crash. The fact is, the world is dealing with a major piece of news, and Bitcoin is, because of that, more than likely not going to fare so well, at least in the short term. So guys, in today's video, I'm going to be showing you all of the technical and fundamental reasons why I believe that a bigger crash is coming to Bitcoin than what we've just seen, and we're going to talk about where Bitcoin might find support and a couple of head and shoulders patterns, because there's actually two that have a chance of forming here relatively soon, one bullish and one bearish. We have got a lot to get into in today's video, guys, and I think you're going to really enjoy it and get a lot of value out of it. If you do, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. It really helps out the channel when you do that. But without much further ado, guys, let's go ahead and dive right on into it. Let me see if I can be like one of those reporters on like MSNBC and get my tie right. The stock market took a tumble of 500 points yesterday as the news of the news spread worldwide. No, but seriously, guys, without taking ourselves too seriously, let's take a look at the S&P. Oh, wow, that sucks. Guys, over the last 7 days or so, the S&P 500 has corrected over 15%. We had a little bit of a bounce yesterday, but now the market is closed and the weekend is here. Over the weekend, the news doesn't wait for the weekend, so it doesn't close on Sunday like some would say. It will continue to evolve, and we're going to have to deal with that, and we're going to see the ramifications of that on Monday when the S&P 500 opens and when Bitcoin is, well, still trading, because Bitcoin trades 24/7. The reason I'm bringing this up again is because I want you guys to remember how important this crash on the stock market is. I didn't watch the video, but I saw a thumbnail by Sonny, and what it looked like in the thumbnail was he was comparing the S&P 500 or one of the other major stock indexes to Bitcoin, and he was correlating and showing how when a big crash happens in the stock market, there seems to be a big one in Bitcoin. I went ahead and fact-checked him on that, and as we can see here, he's not really wrong. We were seeing a big correction in the S&P 500 right when Bitcoin corrected in August through December of 2018. Even on this correction over here, the stock market was having a pullback during that time. So there does seem to be some correlation between traditional stocks and between the cryptocurrency market. And right now, guys, the stock market is taking a nosedive. It is in a tailspin. I don't really know how else to put that without scaring you guys. All of this to say that fundamentals do have an impact on Bitcoin. You'll hear some people say, give me the technicals and I will show you the news, which I agree is very true, but the only reason you can do that is because the technicals update based on price action, the price action updates based on the news. There's a delay to that. So if you read the news, sometimes you're going to get a technical confirmation before the technical updates. We all know that the MACD can lag 3 days. We all know that the Heikin-Ashi can lag 2 or 3 days or intervals. We all know that the RSI can take a week or two to recover or rally or crash down to levels that we think it should be at. And that's why I've always said that the technicals are very important. Don't get me wrong. We do technical analysis here on the channel literally every single day, 365 days a year. But that doesn't mean the news is irrelevant. I don't really talk about real world news very much here on the channel. And the reason for that is because the vast majority of it is not going to affect Bitcoin. But what's going on in Asia and now Europe and probably the rest of the world relatively soon is definitely going to have an impact as far as I'm concerned. We've already seen evidence of that. It is not normal for the stock market to correct 15% in 7 trading days. So with that foundation laid, where is Bitcoin heading from here? Let's go ahead and look at some technical indicators. First and foremost, guys, as I showed you in the intro, Bitcoin is below some critical levels of support. One of those would be the 20 WEMA. That was sitting around $8,700 to $8,900. Remember, I wanted Bitcoin to get support there, but we couldn't have really predicted the major crash on the stock market having to do with the news. So since we couldn't do that, it is kind of understandable that Bitcoin might correct a little bit farther because we had some factors that we didn't put into our technical analysis. Remember, no matter what technical analysis you're doing, it's always going to be incomplete because there's always going to be a factor that you don't know about. That's why there's no certainties in cryptocurrency. This is a good example of this. We predicted Bitcoin going to around $8,900, and I never necessarily said that it wouldn't fall below, but I said we're going there. And since we didn't incorporate the news and the stock market crash, which we couldn't have really predicted here on the channel, into that, it's causing Bitcoin to pull back farther. So the lesson to take from that is make sure that you're incorporating as much as you possibly can into your technical analysis without corrupting your technical analysis, because you don't want to put weight on stuff that doesn't matter, and realize that you're going to be surprised sometimes, and that's okay. That's why you have backup plans. That's why you have stop losses, etc. Anyway, Bitcoin has fallen below the 20 WEMA, and on the daily chart, Bitcoin has also fallen below a similar level on the 200 daily simple moving average. Now, guys, I was hoping that Bitcoin would hold here. Of course, it has not so far. We could still get back up above it in the next week or two. We saw the same thing happen in the inverse when we were testing the 200 as resistance. We got above it for 2 weeks and then fell back below it ultimately. We might see the same thing happen in the bullish direction here, where we fall below it for a couple of weeks and then get back up above it. We might see something like this. But for right now, though, guys, Bitcoin is below the 200 daily SMA, and if you look back on the history of Bitcoin, that technically means that we're back into bear market territory. Bitcoin never once even went down to test the 200 daily simple moving average during this bull market in 2016 or 17. What we may have just seen over the last month or so, it might have been corollary to this little rally right here where we got above it briefly, fell, and then rallied back up above it a few months later. So we might see something like that happen instead of the bull market kicking off right now. It's hard to tell. It's pretty early. The point is, though, guys, Bitcoin has just fallen below some very major levels of support, and when Bitcoin does that, it is typically a very bearish signal, and technically it's a short signal. I'd be careful of shorting right now. If you want to, you go right ahead. I'm going to not. I'm looking for long-term investment entry positions right now. That's what I'm doing in the market. I'm not shorting this. The market is extremely volatile right now and very, very heavily dependent on people freaking out and fudding over what's going on stocks and the news. So it's hard to trade based off of that because it's hard to factor that into your analysis. That goes back to what we said a little while ago. Point being, I think Bitcoin is going lower, and I think it's going to be going lower somewhat quickly here. So let's go ahead and discuss support. Well, guys, you've heard me talk about the level of support of $7,700 over the last several days, and that level would be right here. As you can see, this is a very major level of support. We have a lot of support tests right here, right here. We had resistance tests right here. We had a bullish breakout right there, and we tested it as support right there. And as always, you want to make sure you're looking at multiple technical indicators. It's actually just below a VPVR climax around $7,800 to $7,900, meaning that since we've broken through our $8,900 to $9,100 zone, the next zone is likely to be around $7,750 to $8,000, something like what we've just drawn on the chart. I'm going to go ahead and put a box of support right there. There we go. That's where I'm expecting Bitcoin to go, but we're probably going to make one pit stop before we get there. And that pit stop would be none other than the 100 daily simple moving average, which is sitting somewhere in between our two levels of support right here at around $8,300. It'd be kind of weird if Bitcoin bounced there, but it is very possible. And frankly, guys, it is a very important level of support. So if Bitcoin does pull back to $8,300, you might expect a couple of days of bullishness as Bitcoin tries to bounce here. And then we might do something like that, where we have a little bit of a bear flag, a little bit of a bull trap. Bitcoin rallies for a couple of days and then pulls back down to our support, where hopefully we will bounce, probably not that quickly, but hopefully we will bounce from there. This right here is what I think at this point Bitcoin is going to do. That is my prediction. And guys, there are plenty of reasons for me to make that prediction as well. The MACD is very bearish. We've been diverging bearish for, except for 2 days, almost 2 weeks in a row. The RSI is very low, sitting around 35. That is an important factor, by the way, because if RSI goes down to 30, historically we know that Bitcoin very, very rarely goes below 30 on the RSI on the daily chart. So that would probably almost certainly indicate a short-term bounce, which, wouldn't you know it, that lines up almost perfectly with where we put this 100 daily simple moving average. Bitcoin comes down here, bounces for a few days, resets the RSI up to maybe 40, 45, and then we correct down to 77. And like I said in yesterday's video, guys, there are a lot of other reasons to believe a scenario like that. Longs are absolutely tanking. These shorts are probably going to start rallying quite quickly, relatively soon. Most people don't want to bet against the bull trend that we were in. Like I just told you, I would be careful of betting against the bull trend also because we don't know exactly where the bottom is. The bottom could be at $8,300 on the 100. It could be at $7,700. It could be as low as $6,500. There is support down there. Hopefully we don't go that low, but it is possible. I'm going to be very careful of shorting in this market unless it's scalping. If it's something in like a short term, like within an hour or two trend, that's one thing. But if you're talking about doing a short that you're going to keep open for several days, I would personally be careful of doing that. But of course, this is not financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. And guys, seriously, I'm not your mother. Please, just use your own brain. That's literally one of the only things I ask of you. That and hitting the like button. Oh, and getting coffee. Yeah. I don't know what you're doing. Go get your coffee. Do you forget? Really? Come on. You know how this works. Go. Thank you. Okay, pause the video. Thank you. You're back. Good. As far as other analysis is concerned, though, guys, I do want to point out those head and shoulders patterns I mentioned earlier because I don't know if you can see this, but look at this. Bitcoin very much looks like it's putting in a stupidly long-term inverse head and shoulders pattern right here. And remember that $7,700 level I mentioned? Yeah, that happens to be the shoulder line. So that's why I said earlier that I kind of hope that Bitcoin goes back to 7,700 because we would be putting in one of the biggest inverse head and shoulders patterns that Bitcoin has ever seen. If we're able to hold around 77 to 8,000, Bitcoin could very easily put a rally in there and then confirm a second right shoulder and allow for Bitcoin to move much, much higher. That would be a very bullish thing. I'd be very happy to see that, especially if the news starts to die down in the next month or so. It's going to get worse before it gets better, but hopefully it'll get better soon. But guys, there is another head and shoulders pattern, and that would be this one. We have a shoulder right there, a head right there, and if we fall back down to around $8,300, which, by the way, guess what? That's where exactly we were looking at getting support on that 100 moving average. That'd be the bottom of the neckline. Then Bitcoin could bounce here temporarily, just like we said, and then fall below the shoulder line, following through on that head and shoulders pattern. Then what we would do is we'd come down to that flat level of support at $7,700. We would bounce, and then we would rally. So we'd have a head and shoulders pattern making up the left, like, arm part. I'm bad at anatomy. That part of your shoulder, and then we would have the next shoulder come in. Yeah, I don't know what it's called. I don't know. Anyway, guys, it looks like Bitcoin might be about to put in 2 head and shoulders patterns, and the technicals actually give us a reason to believe that that's going to happen, not just like, oh, this might happen if Bitcoin happens to get support here. The levels of support that Bitcoin are looking at actually make sense for Bitcoin to put in 2 head and shoulders patterns right now, which is kind of interesting. The first is bearish and the second is bullish. That order is important because you want the last one to be bullish so that Bitcoin can follow through on it rather than the bearish one. I also do want to take a sneak peek at Ethereum because, guys, I want to clarify something I said yesterday. We did call for a correction on Ethereum. We did say that, but a few videos before that, I said if Bitcoin, and this is an important thing, if Bitcoin goes into a major rally, then Ethereum will probably break bullish here. Bitcoin did not go into a major rally. Very quickly thereafter, Bitcoin corrected, which we also said was more than likely going to happen. So because of that, Ethereum corrected also. I just want to clarify that because someone pointed that out in the comment section yesterday. We did say that Ethereum could have a big rally, but we also said if Bitcoin does, but Bitcoin didn't, which we also said wouldn't happen, so therefore Ethereum fell over, which is something that we predicted. Nevertheless, we are sitting below most of our levels of support. We are quite a bit above of the 100 and the 200 daily SMA, which are sitting down around 177 and 180 respectively, and we're also sitting above 192, which is our 20 weekly exponential moving average, which you guys know is very important on Ethereum. We're also seeing this bearish engulfing candlestick, which doesn't look very good. Be careful of entering any altcoin positions right now. As you guys know, altcoins tend to have major corrections when Bitcoin is going into a crash. And guys, right now is an exception to that in the wrong way because the stock market is also having a major crash. So people are not only going to be skeptical of Ethereum, they're going to be skeptical of the entire cryptocurrency market because they're skeptical of the stock market. And compared to stocks, cryptocurrencies are seen as speculative, and in cryptocurrencies, altcoins are seen as speculative. So it's a double speculation that people are probably going to be avoiding. Anyway, guys, here at the end of the video, I want to talk about one thing. As you guys know, I'm a pretty happy-go-lucky kind of guy. I don't like to be very pessimistic. I don't like to be down, especially here on the channel. And I just want to make sure you guys are aware that the news going on and the correction on the stock market and the correction in Bitcoin right now, it's not the end of the world. It's not the end times. It's not the apocalypse. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. I'll wash my hands of it if it is. I don't think that's the case, okay? You guys don't need to be fudding. You don't need to be freaking out. You don't need to be getting scared. We're all going to be just fine. Hopefully, if you're not fine, then I'm very sorry, thoughts and prayers, but I think we're all going to be just fine. What I want you guys to do is I want you to be very careful in this time because it is very possible to lose a lot of money in times like these. But with that said, there's also a lot of opportunities to make a lot of money. And remember, when you make money, good, you made money. Awesome. That's the end goal, right? Well, when you lose money, you don't just lose money because you are making a trade. When you lose money, you are trading money for wisdom, which is worth far more than money. So whenever you take a loss, that's just as good or maybe even a better thing than rallying and having Bitcoin go up and having your portfolio value increase. Any lesson not paid for is not a lesson learned at all. So guys, if you didn't pay for the lesson, you're probably not going to learn it, and you sure as hell are not going to retain it. In times of success, we celebrate, and in times of failure, we ponder, and you mostly learn from pondering, not from partying. So please, guys, if you've lost a lot of money in this crash lately, or you think you might relatively soon, I've gotten a lot of sad emails lately, and it's really troubling me because I want you guys to understand that you can come back from anything. It's not a matter of if you can come back from whatever it is you're dealing with. It's a matter of if you choose to fight. Because if you choose to fight, you're more than likely going to overcome. The same thing's true in here in cryptocurrency markets. So whatever happens, guys, there's going to be blood on the streets, literally and metaphorically, over the next couple of weeks, unfortunately. But I need you guys to not panic. I need you guys to not FUD. I need you guys to not freak out. I need you guys to not catch falling knives. And most importantly, I need to keep you guys' heads screwed on straight here over the next week because I will be continuing to bring you content no matter what happens, even if I get a really bad cough. The last thing I want is for you guys to flip out because the market is having a correction. We're all going to be just fine. With that said, that brings me to my last point. When Bitcoin is having a correction like this, when the stock market is having a correction like this, when Ethereum is having a correction like this, it is a wonderful time to make money. A lot of people don't realize this, but you talk to the world's 100 millionaires and billionaires, they're going to tell you that they got rich during recessions. They got rich during pullbacks. People that make a whole lot of money, they get rich when the correction is going on, especially in business, because when everybody else is cowering in a hole somewhere trying to live off their savings, that's when there's no competition in the space and you could dominate. That's what we're going to do right now. As Bitcoin's having a correction, we're going to load up our bag so that we can kick it later in Maui if we want to. This is an investing opportunity, the likes of which that we haven't seen in a couple of months. You know, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and stocks are on sale right now, so look for a good entry and consider investing over the next couple of months. I think you will be glad you did in the future, but remember, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice, and I'm not your mother. Hit the like button. Anyway, guys, that is going to wrap it out for today's video. If you did, like I said, hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps out the channel when you do that, and I'd be very appreciative if you did. But anyway, guys, that is going to wrap it out for today's video. Before I go, though, I do first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.